And welcome back, everybody. We're talking to CEOs and business leaders, and today we've got a very special guest, author, speaker, and podcast host. Stacey Brown Randall is here. Hey, Stacey, how are you?
I am doing great, Bob. I feel like I'm in a blast from the past, but
I
I'm
know,
good.
I know, right? We're going to talk about sales, referrals, basically how to get more clients. And I love your book and your program, and I think it's going to be really helpful for my audience to hear about it. But first, we do need to touch on that specifically because we met, and this is going to age both of us, so I'm sorry about this. But it's probably been like 20, I don't know, over 20 years probably.
Yes.
And how did that happen? We were training for a marathon or something like that.
Half marathon.
Yeah, marathon.
Yes.
Okay.
That half marathon is the reason why I think running is the devil's work. And I don't know why anybody does it. But we were, I mean, I don't remember the difference in our ages, but for me, it was, it was my early 20s and we were training for that half marathon. That's how we met. You were in Charlotte at the time where I still am. Yeah. So I've like seen you. I mean, I've known you, it feels like forever, but obviously haven't seen you in a really long time.
Yeah, well, it's great to reconnect. And I'll tell you that after I ran that half marathon, I thought, there's really no reason to do that again for me.
Yes. I had the same reaction. And actually, then when I got married and I had children, I was like, I would rather have another kid than run any type of race ever again. Yeah, it was not my favorite.
Well, since we're talking about the past a little bit, I do want to hear one of the things that I'm really interested in all my guests is how they got to where they are now. Now, the book and the program is Generate Business Referrals Without Asking. But before we go too much into that, how did you even decide, hey, I'm going to write this book?
I mean, it would be really awesome if the story I got to tell was, one day I woke up and God was like, okay, Stacey, now you're brilliant with referrals without asking. That's not how it started at all. Actually, it started from the School of Hard Knocks. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. We have, like, my uncle is a CPA and he ran like a resort management company for many, many years. My grandmother had restaurants. My father was an author. My brother went into the restaurant business. I married a guy who was an entrepreneur. So just growing up, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But, I did the corporate route after college. And then while I was getting my master's degree, just before that, I decided to start my first business. For me, it was like, what am I going to start a business in? Like, what will people pay me for? Was actually kind of the whole process that I went through in my 20s. Like, okay, what will people pay me for? And one thing I was good at back then was HR consulting, particularly in the space, just some of the jobs that I had, particularly in the space of generational diversity and employee engagement. So when I got a chance to start my own business, I did. I dove in and I ran that company for almost 5 years. It didn't quite make it to the 5-year mark. We got past the 4-year mark. I had big name clients. You would have thought that business should have been way more successful than it was. But I had KPMG and BDO, two large accounting firms, as clients, Ally Bank, like some pretty big name clients. But that business had some secrets, and those secrets would eventually land me in the Business Failure Club. And I would have to go back to corporate America, kind of taking my ego, dragging on the floor with me, and have to figure out what went wrong. And when I started my second business, I was like, okay, one thing that didn't work for me with my first business was only getting my clients through the hustle. Was only getting clients because I was always, it's like you landed a deal and they're like, oh, that's awesome. You landed that deal. You must have been at the right place at the right time. But those of us who are actually trying to grow a business or in sales, we know really what that means. What that means is you're in all the places, all the times, so that it can be the right time, right? For that thing to actually happen. And that's exhausting. It is an exhausting way to grow your business. And, I had babies at the time, which are now middle schoolers now. And so it's just really an exhausting way to do life. And so from that perspective, I was like, okay, I've got to grow this business, but I can't do it with the networking hustle that I did with the first business. I've got to figure out other sustainable, scalable ways to grow my business. And I looked back at all those clients like Ally Bank, Coca-Cola, KPMG. I'm like, where did they come from? And it was truly the networking hustle. It was because I was on that board or attending those events regularly. And I met that person that was like, hey, we need you. And I mean, I did all the things. Like I hired a PR firm and got PR and I did presentations and I would speak around the country. Like I was doing all the things, but the growth, that sustainability growth wasn't happening. And eventually it just crashed and burned. And so when I started my second business, I was like, okay, what are other ways that I can make this work for me that are more scalable, where I'm not always having to hustle? And then, of course, like any normal person, I landed on referrals. And I was like, oh, well, I'm sure I got referrals with my first business. And I didn't. Zero. No referrals. That you would think I had landed KPMG on a referral. I didn't. And so the reality of it is that I was like, oh, well, then I need referrals because that's this awesome way for clients to like, just show up and be like, give me your money. Like, take my money. I'm here. Like, just let me work with you. And so that's what I did. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get referrals. Like I like settled in on with my second business, I'm going to get referrals. And I was a productivity and business coach with my second business after I left my corporate America stint in between business number one and business number two. And I decided to get referrals. And like everybody else, I went to Google because Google never lies, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
I was like, hey, how do I get referrals? And it was like, go ask for them. And I was like, do you have anything else for me? And Google was like, well, you can compensate for them. I'm like, do you have anything else for me? And there's like, no, like be gimmicky, be promotional, hope it happens, ask, pay. And I was just like, no, I don't want to do it that way. It doesn't fit who I am or the brand I want in the marketplace. And so with my second business, figuring out referrals was all about throwing spaghetti on the wall. What could I do that would allow referrals to happen where I could avoid all the things I didn't want to do? And to be honest, I knew I was having success because I was tracking the referrals I was receiving my first year as that business and productivity coach. I got 112 referrals my first year in business that I didn't ask for. And I've got triple digits every year since. But what I realized was as I was throwing spaghetti on the wall, I was also trying to pay attention to what was sticking and what was actually working. And then when my clients that I was coaching were like, how are you growing? I was like, oh, I've got this great referral strategy that I'm following. And they're like, great, teach it to us. And I'm like, oh, now I got to figure out like what makes it. Right. And so by being forced to teach it to them, I had to define it down to steps that anybody could do. It couldn't be reliant on me and my personality or being a business coach. I wanted it to work across industries, not every industry, but across industries. And we've been doing this now for almost a decade. And so we are in 11 different countries all around the world with business owners and sales professionals, helping them with referrals without asking. It is different. It absolutely works, but it's not for everybody, just like asking for referrals isn't for everybody too.
Now, when you're going through that process and you're trying to define the strategy, how does it go from a strategy to a book? Meaning, a lot of times people struggle with, and myself included, because I love to write a book, but it's almost like an imposter kind of a syndrome, I think they call it, where like,
yes.
Are people really going to listen to what I say? Am I really the expert in this field? Did you ever struggle with those kinds of things? Look, it's been 10 years now, but.
Yeah, it's funny. We started this with the teaching people how to generate referrals was probably like, I don't know, like 9 years ago, something like that. We're closing in on a decade. I didn't write the book though until 2018. And a lot of people would have said the progress your company has made since you wrote the book could have happened sooner had you written the book in 2015 or 2016. But to your point, at that point, I knew what I had worked. I had tons of case studies of clients who were having success, but I did have a little bit of the, will it work? I mean, it works. I watch it work, but you just doubt yourself in these really weird, like self-sabotaging ways. And so it was around 2017. I was like, no, I can write this book. I know exactly what I'm saying, and I have the case studies to back it up. And it was something about the success of helping other business owners. And I shared their story of going through my process and the results they had in the book to make my points, gave me all the confidence I needed to like finally write the book, get a publisher, get it published, and make all that happen. I don't think the book would have been the book that it is today. And it's not perfect. I mean, no book is ever perfect, but it's won 3 awards and I'm really proud of it. And it's the book it is because I had so many more years of like just really cementing my confidence in what is working because I was seeing it work day in and day out for my clients. It did make it easier to write the book. I don't know if I could have written the book any earlier in my business. It was published in 2018, but I actually wrote it in 2017. I mean, the publishing cycles are crazy long.
It's such a great success story. I love it. Tell us a little bit about the book. I know there's 5 distinct steps that you have, but maybe give us just an overview, a little kind of flavor of the book.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a lot of people who read the book and they have these light bulb moments. And that's really ultimately what I'm after. What the book has is not going to teach you everything that I teach my clients, or that my clients that are in my program, in terms of exactly what it looks like, right, to be able to build this referable business and to generate more referrals and get more referral sources. Obviously, that's what I'm able to go deep with my clients on. But the book is there because I want you to have the light bulb moment that says, yes, I can go against decades and decades old advice about how to get referrals. And here's someone who can show me how to do it and has case studies to prove it, and then outlines what it's going to look like. So I know what I'm getting myself into. And that's really the purpose of the book. It doesn't give you every little thing that I would teach you to do, because then the book would be like really long and then nobody would read it. The point of it being like a simple read is to be a simple read. Like, I remember talking with my publisher and he was like, okay, how long do you want this book to be? Like, actually, it's not long, it's thick. Like, how thick do you want this book to be? And you take my book and you compare it to like a Dan Pink book, right? And you're like, your book's really small compared to like a Dan Pink book. And the publisher said something I thought was really, really clever. And he was like, listen, if you want this book to be picked up by non-readers, don't make it super long because it's too
Yeah,
intimidating.
right.
And I
Right.
was like, well, that's actually easier to write. I'd rather write a book that's like
Yeah.
300, like 30,000 to 40,000 words versus, like 60,000 words. I was like, okay, sign me up. And so the point is to prove to people through the case studies, through the information, the psychology, the brain science, and all the things I break down in the book about how referrals really work, and then how the old school advice you've been receiving, like asking and compensating and all those things, actually work against you. And then to set you up to understand, here's what you do instead, which is those 5 steps that we break down about how to generate referrals in a way that's just way more authentic, that doesn't include any of those gimmicky asking, compensating tricks that people teach you. So that's really the whole idea behind the book, is I want to get people to a place where they're like, yes, I can do this. And if you can get what you need from the book and off to the races, you go, great. But really, I just want people to believe it's possible.
One of the things I thought was interesting, you talk about the psychology behind a referral.
Mhm.
You say, because it's really not about me or you all the time. It's about that referral source wanting to help out somebody else.
Yeah, it's so simple, right? And yet we forget it in the day to day of doing business. Like, the truth is, people are always like, well, people refer me because, I'm the right person for them to refer, or because they care about me or they help me. That's why they want to refer me. And I'm like, nobody wakes up and says, how do I help Bob's business grow today? Nobody in the world, sorry,
No,
Bob, right?
no,
But
true.
nobody in the world woke up today and it's like, how do I help Bob grow his business? You did. You're the only person in the world that woke up today and thought to yourself, how do I help my business grow? It's the
Yep.
same thing for me. I'm the only person in the world that woke up today and said, how do I make my business grow? But we believe that people are out there wanting to help us grow our business. It's not that people don't want to help us. It's just that that's not the driver behind why a referral happens. They're happy to help you grow your business by giving you a referral, but that's not where it starts. Where it starts is, hey, I know somebody who has a problem, and I know you're the right person to fix it. You are the perfect solution provider, and that is why I refer them to you. And that is really key in terms of understanding why referrals work. One, because your referral source is helping somebody else, but they're still choosing you. Out of everybody else they could pick that does what you do, they're still choosing you to be the one they refer to. So your relationship with the referral source is really, really important. It's just not where it starts in terms of why you're referred. You're referred because you're going to be the right fit to solve someone's problem, and the referral source is interested in being the hero to help that person.
When you're talking to your clients, do you get the feeling that they have already gone through the process of identifying who those potential referral sources could be?
No.
Yeah.
I
I didn't
wish.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that I would say. people that are like watching and listening this, if this is like the number one thing I would tell you to do, because I think, and I know this because of all of my clients who've gone through it, they're like, it's an annoying exercise, but it is an empowering
Mm.
exercise to go back through and look at your clients over the last couple of years and then determine where they came from. That's the easiest way to do it, is like pull a list of your clients at least from 2021, 2020, 2021 and 2020. If you want a gold star, I want you to go back 4 years. So pull up 19 and 18 too, and just list out who your new clients are. If you're at a database, this should be easy. If you don't have a database, this will be harder. And then just map out who are your new clients that came in over the last couple of years. And if it feels overwhelming to do 4 years, fine. Do 2 years or 1 year, whatever it is. And then identify where those people came from. And then that's when you're going to see what's actually working. So, you know, that networking group you go to every single week and you wonder what the ROI is? That data will tell you how many people did you close as a client because of that networking group you go to every single week. I mean, it's a great way to look at everything that's working and what's not working, where based on where you're spending your time and resources. But what you'll also discover during that process of identifying where your clients come from is the ones that are referred to you. And then I just want you to capture the referral source's name, because when you look at your list of referral sources in black and white, like it's Bob, it's Sarah, it's Sam. Like when you look at those names, there's nothing more empowering to be like, I know these people and I can definitely take better care of them to generate more referrals from them. It is your business's biggest asset, that list of referral sources. It is also your low hanging fruit that you're probably missing out on. Traditional advice, though, would tell you know who your referral sources are and then take them all to coffee and ask them to refer you more. And what I know based on the human dynamic and psychology is that's actually going to do more damage than good in the long run. There's better ways to cultivate referrals from them, but the starting point is knowing who are we talking about? What are we like? Who are we dealing with? And then we can build everything from there. But yeah, most people don't know. Most people either pretend to know or they over exaggerate in their own minds who their referral sources are or how many that they have. Usually, when people tell me, oh, yeah, I get a ton of referrals, my business is built by referrals, I've got dozens or hundreds of people referring me, my response is two simple words: prove it. And that means
Yeah.
go through the data and tell me who's actually referring you, because you will be surprised by who is, who you thought was and isn't, how many you have, or quite possibly how few you have that are actually referring you. But it is such a great process to go through as well, because it's like, hey, now I know that I've got a group of folks that I can take better care of and then get more business from down the road. Right.
One of the things that I struggle with, and I think probably most people do that are in sales, which is pretty much everybody, right?
Right.
Is you form a connection and you've got a good connection with somebody, they're a good contact for you, but
Mhm.
transitioning them to become a referral or someone that they can do business with, maybe it's a touch point, what do I send? How do you kind of go through that process? This is probably too long of an answer or too long of a response for you to say on the show here, but maybe just a little tidbit on how to go about doing that.
Yeah, so that's absolutely one of the strategies that we teach our clients. You need to know how to get more referrals from your existing referral sources. And then specifically with what you said, you then also need to know how to cultivate new people into becoming referral sources, whether those are clients or contacts in your network. And those are definitely two plans that we teach our clients to have and operate in their business. But if we kind of just go up to that 30,000-foot view of having people in your network or as your clients that you wish were referring you, I always tell folks the number one way I'm going to teach it to you is we're going to go in the side door, not the front door. And the traditional advice is always go in the front door. You're meeting with that person, you're having coffee, and you're
Yeah.
just going to hit them over the head with, so who else do you know who's just like you that should definitely be doing business with me? And everyone's like, oh God, right? Like, get me out of here. I don't want to
Yeah.
be in this conversation. And there are some people who respond okay to that. It's just the minority of people who actually respond okay to that. Most of us are a little insulted when you do that. And we can't always put our finger on it, right? But we know that's not what we want to do because it's not how we want to be treated. And so, what I always tell folks, don't go in the front door. That's all the advice you're getting. Just ask them if they'll refer you and become a new referral source. That's not good. Go in the side door and focus on how you can help them. And our strategy starts from that place. And it's going to take longer. It's going to go a little slower. It may take months before we can get a referral from somebody, not days, not hours, but you're going to cultivate them in a way that puts them first which traditional sales, no matter what they teach you, goes completely against that. And so we're going to teach you how to put them first consistently while using some specific language that we call referral seeds, which really is our secret sauce. And then that is going to allow them to find the opportunities to actually refer you without you ever having to do any of the things you don't want to do, like ask them to refer you. It's a really cool process when you kind of see it happen in terms, but it comes from the place of, can you put them first before your own needs? And can you really cultivate a relationship with them and then allow that to cultivate into a referring relationship?
It's, going through the information, it's really a plan, kind of a consistent plan to get more clients, really.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I was on the call with somebody before I hopped on this with you, and they're one of my VIPs, so we're working one-on-one together. And I was asking her, I was like, "Okay, so how's it going over the last 3 months?" And she's like, "Stacey, I've done nothing." And I was like, "Great. Can I guess what your results are?" And she was like, "You may." I'm like, "I'm gonna go with nothing." And she was like, "Yep." And she owned it, which I completely appreciate, right?
Yeah.
We should always be the client that we want to have in our own business. And she was like, "I have to get back on the horse. Like, I can't." And she was really honest about it. She was like, "I can't expect people just to refer me while I'm ignoring them and while I'm not cultivating a relationship with them." And some industries are different, right? I mean, some things work faster, some things work a little bit slower. But in her industry, she needed to be moving, she needed to be more consistent, right? Because of how her industry operates. And so, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it does come down to that. Are you willing to do the work? Because if you are, you're willing to be consistent. It's a big word we use a lot, consistent. If you're willing to be consistent, then you can get those consistent results. I didn't get 112 referrals my first year because I did one or two things. Like, I was consistently cultivating relationships. And then the way I've maintained receiving those referrals while adding new referral sources is year after year taking care of my existing referral sources. I have an attorney in our program who, at the end of 2020, when she sat down to, I don't know why I'm giving all my female examples. I guess I could give some male examples as well. But at the end of 2020, she sat down to build her 2021 referral plan for her existing referral sources. It was the seventh time she had built her referral plan because she had been doing it all those 6 years before, and she had been crushing her goal every year of referrals received. And for her, based on the work that she did, her goal had eventually grown to 40 referrals a year. She's like, if I get 40 referrals a year, I get to pick and choose the cases. Everything's awesome. I pick and choose the clients. She got 47 in 2020. And so that's why she's like, this works. And that's why I do the work and I keep it going. And that's really, really important. It doesn't happen because you do one or two things. There is no silver bullet. There is no easy button. I'm not Staples. But there is the ability to do the things you need to do to have success.
Do you find that, some of the people that are opposed to, let's say, cold calling, or, a lot of people don't even think cold calling works anymore. This is a little bit of a different way to go about it.
Oh yes, this is like the antithesis to having to do cold calling.
Yeah.
I would rather form relationships all day long than have to pick up the phone and cold call. And I've done it, and I'm not very good at it. I mean, I made things happen when you actually have to make things happen. It's like thinking way back in my corporate days. But the reality of it is there's lots of ways to build your business. Referrals may not be the one you want to focus on, or it may be the one you want to focus on the most. But whatever strategies you're going to deploy to grow your business from a sales perspective, at the end of the day, you're going to need more than one. You're probably going to need a couple of ways that you bring in clients, a couple of ways that you fill that prospecting pipeline at the top when people are getting to know you. There's going to be a couple of ways you're going to fill that prospecting pipeline. It's just when people work with me, I want referrals to be the biggest piece of the pie. I want it to be the majority of the way you bring in your best clients, but it's not the only. But you do have to figure out what works for you, and then you have to work it.
Yeah. So you've got the book, you've got the programs online, you've got your coaching business, your speaker. What's it like in your life these days? I mean, it's got to be a lot of fun, I would think.
You forgot podcast.
And the podcast, which I've been listening to, so I'm sorry I left that out.
No, that's fine. It's so funny. It sounds like a lot. But I think the longer you're in business, it allows you the opportunity to figure out, like for me, I do a lot of batch producing, right? So when I'm working on my second book, and full disclosure, I've been working on it for entirely way too long. It should have been published this year. It's November. The manuscript isn't even done yet. So it's delayed a lot. Thank goodness my publisher likes me. But I find that I batch best. And so like when I'm writing a new book, I'm not one of those folks who can get up and write 1 hour a day. I go away for a weekend and will knock out 5 to 7 chapters. And a couple of weekends like that, I can get the book written. I have an extremely supportive husband and mother-in-law and mother. So that works really well. But for
Mhm.
me, I have more freedom now with all those things you mentioned. I have more freedom now than I ever did when I was a one on one coach and that's all I did, or when I was in corporate America. I mean, my day shuts down almost every day at 3 o'clock and I'm off to get the kids because at this age, the only time they'll talk to me is when they're in the car and they have to. So I don't want to miss that. And I don't miss baseball games or plays or recital. I actually have more time freedom than I've ever had before, and I think a lot of that has to do with how I've structured the business and how I work things. When we do the podcast, we batch a month's episode at a time. So we knock it
Mhm.
out, get it to the editor, and then batch, getting it ready to go on the show notes and all those things. So everything I do kind of operates that way. That doesn't mean there aren't long days, but there are also more days with more holes of freedom in them than ever before.
Great. Well, I'm going to put your information all over my website and the
Thank you.
podcast. But what's the best place to reach you? Probably your website.
Yes. So home base is stacybrownrandall.com. Stacy is with an E. For people interested in the program, though, that's growthbyreferrals.com. That's the name of the program. So, but yeah, the home base of the website will always get you to what you want to learn about first.
Great. And again, I'll put it on the website and every place, every platform that I have. And
Thank you.
thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. It's great to see you again and
Yeah.
continue all the success that you're having.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Bye for now.